Along with me, we have our program head, Mr. Arun Murugesan, here present with us. Before we begin to talk about the program, I would like to take a few minutes to introduce Bangalore School of Design. BST was established in late 2016, and its core objective is to bring world class design education to the Indian community. We also believe that design can only be taught by practicing designers. And at BSD, all our design faculty come with rich experience and they also practice on daily basis. This acts as a huge advantage for the student community as they are exposed to various live projects and current market trends, which is practiced and also being taught at Bangalore School of Design. Now, I'd like to request Arun to address the students who have gathered here. And we also have a Q&A session at the end of this webinar. And any questions you guys might have, please pop the questions in the chat section. So I will be taking up those questions with Arun subsequently. Arun, your mic is on mute. Sorry. Arun, your mic is on mute.
Ha, is it audible?
Yes, loud and clear.
Great. Good morning, everyone. I think I've been telling good morning, good morning. It's not heard. Now is it heard?
Yes.
Great to have you guys all here in this webinar. I'll not keep this webinar boring. I'll keep it a bit interactive, where it's not going to be only one voice from my side. We are all going to talk about. It'll be very interesting to know about you guys also. But the number of audience are there huge. We might not get into knowing each and every one. Whenever there is a question on the PPT, I will just post it and you guys can have your views on it, and then we'll look into the what is the answer for that. For example, no, let's go into this. How many of you guys are aware about the program UI UX? Okay. Anyone have learned about UI UX before? Heard about these terms UI UX before?
Yeah, hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Aparna. I'm from Hyderabad.
Hey,
I'm a
Aparna.
beginner. Yeah, I'm a level 1 UI designer at a artificial intelligence company.
Great.
I know it.
Oh,
I know it.
great.
And I'm working on it. Not fully about UX. I'm working on UI.
Oh, that's great. So you are looking at learning more about UX,
Yeah,
Aparna, right?
yeah.
That's a great step.
Thanks.
That's good. So we have a mixed group. Looks like a few people who know about UI. Are there anyone who haven't heard these terms before? First time we are learning about this UI or UX. Is there anyone who's never heard of these terms? Okay, maybe this. Okay. So before getting into learning what's UI UX and what the program is intending for, I'll just give a brief history about me. So I am a program director of the UI UX program, HCI at BSD. Also, it'll be interesting to see what was my history about coming into this point, right? The reason is you'll be able to relate to what we're going to do in the program. So I finished my BCA in Christ University in Bangalore. Then I also did a distance education Master of Science in Computer Science. Then if you see, I immediately jumped into being called as a UX designer at SAP Labs. Then I was a lead UX designer at Cisco as a consultant. Then I started my own design agency, which was called Detail Design Studio, in which we worked with a lot of startups in Bangalore. Some notables are, we designed the entire hub manager for Flipkart. So this was when me and my team, part of Detail Design Studio, had a UI UX agency. Currently, I am a director of design at a fintech. So there's a gap. Have you observed this gap where BCA and Master of Science are computer science, but I joined as a UX designer. There is no education on formal design education for me, because back then, 14 years, I was not really aware of how do I get into learning UI UX. And there were very few colleges courses being taught on UI UX. But luckily now, in this recent times of 2 to 3 years, there are so many programs and so many institutes have come up with teaching UI UX. And there's one which we are also going to look into from the BSD School of Design, right? And I'll also explain you how are we different from the other institutes. So what happened in the early of my career when I had this interest of becoming a designer, but my formal education was in computer science. I think many of you guys can relate to this. From a kid, I was inclined towards art and a lot of sketching, drawing, or even design appreciation, right? That keen interest kept me pushing towards how can I become a designer. Luckily, at SAP Labs of India, while I was programming, I wanted to become a designer, and I had really good mentors and my manager supporting me to transform my programming knowledge into design. But it took very long time. If you see, I was there for SAP Labs for first 3-4 years, even figuring it out, how do we even design screens. It took few more years to understand what is UI, UX. And then it took 3 to 4 years for me to start designing applications inside SAP. Then, of course, I picked it up by getting mentored from good mentors out in the industry, a lot of books. Then also something which helped me is working on projects on real time. So it took a very long time for me to transform into knowing design versus working on applications. The reason why I'm talking about this is here in this course or the program, we intend to reduce this time taken to learn the entire knowledge and skill to design application into a very small packed program of 6 months. And all the other faculties are also somebody similar like me, who have been self-taught designers, who are working on design as a senior designers in multiple organizations, are coming here to teach the program. Okay, let's jump to this. I'm sure you would have heard this term HCI, UX, UI while I was discussing about myself and also what the program is. Can anyone explain me what HCI is? Anyone want to take a stab on HCI? I'm sure there'll be somebody who would know at least the full form of HCI.
I think Sandeep is there. Aparna is saying.
Okay. I think I'm missing all the chats. That's great. Perfect. Yeah, it's as simple as this, right? So as a designer, what are we doing? Of course, in the field of design, there are various designers. You would see artists who are painting. Are we that? Probably not. What are exactly we? We are human-computer interaction designers. I'm sure everybody would have a digital phone and use a computer, right? The interactions between the human and the computer, it is what we are going to design part of. Somebody we call ourselves as a UI UX designer. It might sound very easy, right? Hey, let's go design some screens where the computer is going to understand, and in turn, the human is going to interact with it. But it is not really that simple. For example,
Arun, I'm sorry to break. I think someone else presented, so you need to represent your screen. Sorry to break you off.
Okay. Is my screen visible now?
Yes, it is popping up. Yes, good to go.
Yeah, it's not that simple as we were discussing, right? It's not that simple to design a human-computer interaction because it's two-way communication. You would have seen, for example, let me take an example of a Swiggy app. It's not just you go see a food, order it, and you get the food, right? There are so many screens that take to design, or the so many screens you interact with. One of the most important screens you would be looking is, hey, what food should I order? And there are multiple people coming onto the same mobile app, and everybody's need is different. Maybe I am looking for ordering North Indian, somebody else looking for ordering biryani, somebody else is looking for some maybe healthy food like salads and other things. But how do you design a home screen? It's quite challenging. For an example of Swiggy, and that's what designers at Swiggy, it's not one designer, there'll be multiple fields of designers working together to put out that home screen, which is going to interact, it's going to tell something to the user. And it doesn't stop there, right? What is the interaction? Maybe I choose, say paratas are there, I'm going to choose paratha, and the restaurants which serve paratha are going to pop up and tell me which restaurant do you want. There are few critical information maybe I as a user need. Maybe I need it very quickly. I am looking for something which is closer to my home. Maybe some other user for the same paratha, he might be looking at ordering which is the most or the least expensive or the low cost paratha, maybe cheaper parathas, or there's somebody else looking at really healthy wheat parathas. So these are different expectations of different users who's using the same application. And in this human computer interaction is what exactly we're going to study. How are we going to study the users and design for their interaction? And of course, it goes on beyond. I'm not going to explain each and every screen where you're going to put the choose what paratha. You can also customize. You're going to customize, for example, in pizzas, you might say what toppings you want to add on. Then you're going to make a payment. At the payment, the screen interactions are very different, where Swiggy tries to show they are very quick and also trustworthy. I'm sure the other two terms are very commonly used, UX, UI. User experience and user interface. Again, I would like to pop this question. Can anyone explain the difference between UX and a UI? Somebody wants to take a shot at this? The difference, a simple difference, I'm sure it's quite obvious on the screen. It says experience and interface.
Once the experience is defined, maybe after that design can be done by referring to that experience.
That's great. That's great. Sorry, I didn't get your name.
Raghavendra.
Hey, Raghavendra. That's great. So Raghavendra is trying to say that once you're going to define the experience, what you're going to design for, and after that there is an interface which you will be developing it. Anybody else wants to add on to this? I'll give an example. I'll not relate to a mobile application in a digital form. Let me take an example of a restaurant, right? So there is a person who wants to start a restaurant, and he wants to serve exquisite food, and he's planning to build a restaurant physical location and serve his target group, right? I'm not going to talk in detail about how does he set up, but he's going to tell that, hey, the kind of people who are going to come into my restaurant are probably who loves to taste really different food that's not available in common other restaurants. And I'm going to design the restaurants in such a way that they get to taste a lot of different food. So while he's thinking of this, of course, let's have a designer called UX designer who talks to the restaurant owner, say Ram. So Ram says, I want to design a restaurant which lets users to taste different variety of food, which is generally not available in India. Then the designer, UX designer, is now not going to start designing how the table should be, how the plates should be arranged, but he's going to imagine what is the experience a person who comes to the restaurant is going to go through. Right from the entrance, or even before that, I'm not going to go into it. Even before he enters in the restaurant, what is that you want to make the user, or make the person who comes to eat the food wants to have is what designed by the UX designer. Maybe this UX designer says this should look really rich in terms of the experience. Maybe the kind of entrance should be so lavishly put. There is a place where the visitor is going to be seated to get a place. Then there is a hallway or a pathway where the users can take, and there are foods kept on the either side so that he can choose what kind of food he wants to choose. It's not like a menu, because menu is generally you put out and say that these are a list of things, but the designer thinks, say he talks to Ram and say that we will not design a regular menu card, but let's put out something where in the pathway the visitors who come in take that path and get to know what are the even different kinds of food, because it's not common idli and dosa. They might not be even exposed to this variety of food. Then once they get seated, maybe somebody comes and explains about what are even the variety of things available, or what does it takes to prepare a food, something like that. Then it goes on ordering experience, and final the checkout experience is well thought through the UX designer. And what does he put out is the entire structure, just like a blueprint for a building. Before you build a building, you put a blueprint out there, right? Okay, what all is required, and where is the entrance, what is the size of the hall, what is the size of the bedroom, everything. This is how a UX designer is going to put something out called information architecture, wireframes, empathy maps. All these are the outcomes of what the study the user experience has done, user experience designer has done. Then comes the user interface designer, who's going to take up the blueprint and going to start building on it. He's going to build how the furnishings of the restaurant is going to be, how the lighting of the pathway is going to be. Whenever the visitor is going to be coming to the table, what should be the table height, what should be the cushion of the chairs, and what should be the dressing of even the people who serve. All are going to be designed by the user interface designer. Of course, I'm not going into something called as user research, even that happens before. Simple terms, the person who designs what should be the experience of the user of a particular service or a product is designed by the UX designer, and what it looks and feels or interacts with is what designed by the UI designer. In an industry, a real industry, there are multiple designers who come to design an application. For example, for same example as Swiggy, it's not one somebody called as UI UX designers. There are user researchers, there are UX designers, there are interaction designers, there are UI designers, there are also visual designers who design the banners, the icons, and everything. So it takes a team of good 4 to 5 different field of designers to come up to design something like what you see Uber or any of the applications. And this is exactly what we would cover in the program also. So the program is exactly going to teach what happens in the industry and what is the process followed in the industry. So there's a foundation of UI UX given. This is very common generics to understand even what UI UX HCI is. Then user research and the methods of researching are taught in the initial days, where you would know who is going to use the application and design it exactly for them. A small example for this, if a carpenter has to design a stool, he's not going to just take some wood and nuts and bolts and start building the stool. He's going to at least ask first, who's going to sit on the stool, right? If the answer is a kid, maybe he would talk to the kid and or even observe how a kid would sit on a stool and how the kid would use a stool. The structure of the stool is going to be very different from what he's going to design it for a kid who's going to sit on it, or an elderly person going to sit on it. And this is what we will study in the user research methods. How do you even understand the user's need, get some insights, and design for that? The second thing comes is information design and interaction design, where you would, in complex applications, you can't just start building a application, right? You'll have to put out a structure, how the entire information architecture is. Then you will start designing step by step. For example, a blueprint in an architecture. You will know exactly what is the entire building is going to look like, how each floor, what is the space between the wall and the entrance. Everything will be designed in this interaction design or wireframing, where you would define the exact measurements and interactive systems, so that whenever a visual designer is going to pick it up, he would know exactly what's to be done. So visual design is the one what you actually see on the application, the colors, the typography, the imagery. In e-commerce, you would have observed very large images, and in a banking application, you would be seeing more of numbers. All these are done by the visual designers and the user interface designers. Then there's something else also which is important to design. It's just not you go work on a project, but how do you involve the entire, all the stakeholders together and get more creative while working on the projects, is what we would teach in the design thinking. So this comes a little end because you would want to understand the foundation of what UI UX we're going to do. Then comes a little bit of expertise where you would control a group of people, all the stakeholders, users together in a single group to get the best creative outcome of it. Last and the most important thing, which is called as an usability testing or an evaluation, where before you go out and build, the engineers go out and build the product. Before you go and put the brick on the wall and cement it, you're going to build a small 3D model and show it to the user and say that, hey, is this what your dream house is going to look like? Hey Ram, is this the restaurant which you have dreamed about is going to look and work like? And Ram said, no, I don't actually want this, let's modify it. Then we also go and in the usability test, what we actually do is we go to the users. Like you would have seen this model flats, right? Where you would go and feel how the entire apartment is going to come later. And all the questions you ask, maybe the designer would implement in the actual flat which you're going to use it. Something like that. Even before the developers, the engineers are going to pick up and work on the project of, say, example, Swiggy. You're going to take a prototype, show it to sample set of users, get what do they understand, take it into an iteration, rework on the designs from the feedback of the users, and work on it. Example, whatever we saw previously, this is the exact process of an UI UX, where you empathize, you study the user, what exactly the need of the users is. It's a lot of science where you will study in depth about the users. Then you will define what are you building, what exactly you are building, you will be defining it. You will go into an ideation where you will have multiple stakeholders coming in together, trying to get a lot of creative ideas, validate it, build the product in prototype stage, where you will design and do a mock-up, go to the users, validate it, how it works, is it anything which we improve. And the last three things where you ideate, it keeps on continuing for a longer time, where you marginally improve something. Uber application was built, say, 10 years back. Still, there are hundreds of designers working on it to improve it. And this is the cycle they would keep on following. How can we make the experience of our visitors, of our customers better each and every time? And this cycle is where a lot of effort goes in, iterating gets into it. I'm going to again go back to this particular slide. Yeah, and open up to the audience, asking, is there any curriculum related questions you have? I'd be happy to answer that. Are we taking the questions now, or should we do it at the end?
That's your call, Arun. We are okay.
I think let's do it at the end. And there's nothing much more than this, where we would get into the details of how the program is run. The program is for 6 months. We would be doing on a weekend batch. Saturdays and Sundays, we have 4 hours of each. The student is faculty ratio is 1:6, where we'll work on multiple projects where the faculties would assist the group in working on the projects. Also, the other important thing is here it's going to be 80% of practicals, where you'll be working on projects, but just not learning theories, whichever is available in online or whichever is available in other books. So the most important, the class kind of project, the class model, it helps you when there are other peers who have doubts and ask questions. How do you solve the problem? Everybody gets to learn about it, which is generally not available in an online video course, right? Then the other thing is every study, whatever we see here, ends up with a practical project. So in a research, you would go and work on a project which ends up in completing a user research. You will be working on a project in which you'll be just designing the wireframes for a given project, then visual design, and the end of the program you'll be working on a project which covers the entire process, and that will become all of your projects will become a portfolio, and this will help you to also to have a portfolio ready at the end of the course. Eligibility, I would not, but yeah, at least 10 plus 2 is required so that at least you understand the complexities of applications. But open to this also if you do not have even 10 plus 2 completion. Let's see how you would be able to cope up, understanding the complex things which we'll be working on. But at least a 10 plus 2 is good for starting off working on this course. Also, one of the most important things is all the faculties are, as Praveen said, we are all working professionals and we work on day-to-day design. We are not just an academicians where we just theory is being taught. Then the last thing is the entire program structure is designed with a lot of practicals, which exactly is being used in the current industry. Let it be the tools or whatever the process is what we practice and follow in the our day-to-day design life. That's all from the program side, and open for questions. I'm just going to come back to the chat and see if we have any questions, or I'm going to halt the screen at this particular screen where there will be more questions.
Thank you, Arun. I would request the participants to pop in your questions in the comment section, and we'll be able to take it up with Arun subsequently. Thank you, guys.
So meanwhile, while the questions are coming up and being typed, how many of you guys are practicing UI or at least design, like a graphic design? It could be communication design, and it's going to be very useful for you guys who are inspiring or aspiring to become designers, and this is going to be a good foundation for you guys. How many of you guys are practicing design in any forms? How many we have? Should we do a quick, like 5 minutes round of everyone? We can start with Anand. It'll be good to know, Anand, what do you do and why you're looking at this program? I'm just going in the alphabetical order. Maybe just 10-15 seconds. It'll be good to know.
Hello.
Hey, Anand.
Yeah, hi, Arun. Actually, I was just thinking to know that more about the course. Can we have few more examples of any UI UX design which has been already taken up, so that we, before joining, at least we can know much detail on that.
Sure. Let's do that, Anand. Maybe let's connect once again. I'll be able to take you through the students' program, students' work, or even I would be able to explain what projects we work on. We can take it up post this. Is that okay?
Yeah, that is.
That's great. I think Aparna, we just had you are a UI designer and looking for UX, and that's going to be really useful because if you see, 80% of our initial are talking about UX, and you'll be able to pick it up much more faster because you know a little bit of base what they have. Bobai, you want to just take 10 to 15 seconds telling about yourself? Mamata A. Hey, Mamata. Talk about yourself and what are you looking at this program for? Murali. think Praveen is ready to talk. Praveen, want to share? Oh, that's you. So sorry.
I'm wondering,
I saw
I'm
that.
searching for another Praveen here.
Sandeep, even I was also looking at.
I would
Hey,
love to
Sandeep.
learn UI UX. No doubt about it.
Okay, Sujit. Your voice is very feeble. Maybe a little loud. Am I scaring you guys? Like whomever I pinpointed dropping off. Cool. Let's open up. If there are any other questions,
I have a few questions on my end on a student's point of view, Arun. So we are looking at a diploma program which is of 6 months.
Yeah.
Would you categorize this diploma program as a career shifter? Would you
Yeah,
encourage
this is
people who are looking at who have been creative, who've been a graphic designer, or who have a creative background? You think this would be a course that they can do and look at a opportunity in job opportunity wise? Will that bring in a significant difference to their resume?
yeah. This the entire structure of the program is also designed in a way where a working professional who's looking to move into an UI UX as a passion into design, this is going to help. All the practicals which we are in the program going to conduct are going to teach them how do they transform from, it could be a software professional or it could be even a designer, but now how can they transform themselves into an UI UX field later, and how is the program going to be a bridge to it's what exactly designed as. It need not be specifically graphic designers or communication designers. It could be anyone. So in the last batch, we have had a data analyst who have not heard of even what a design is in her life, but she was very passionate to work on something which is going to uh, help the company to visualize what the products are. The data analyst was a little smart, which meant she could understand what the end product her customers used to use, and that's very important. The people who are looking for a career shift need not be designers, but who can visualize how the end product, whatever their customers are going to use, is going to be a very important part of becoming an UI UX designer, because that is what in the career you will be going exactly be doing. So there is a problem. You're going to solve the problem. You're going to visualize the outcome of this and give it to the development team. That's one. Second kind of audiences or the students who really want to pick up this program is, hey, I've been programmer throughout my life where I've been told what to do. Most of the time we are given specifics which exactly we have to work on. But can I be on the other side and define what to be done? One layer above the programming or the engineering team would be the UX designer, where the UX designer, the product team, the management will all come together in defining what should be done for their customers. So now they take that shift. Hey, I of course do know how to do this. Can I be the one who will be defining what to be done? And they jump into this career of being, of course, a little bit of sense of aesthetics, the design sense, and also understanding the customer. The empathy is all required to become a UI UX designer. So yeah, the program is sharply defined for a career shift who's looking for one, jumping from whatever their current job is, moving into an UX program, or even we had 3 students in the last batch who were looking to start from their engineering or a BCom graduate. How can I become a designer? Can I look at this as the foundation? And that is the reason we have minimum of 5 to 6 months to go through the entire process, which will give them a foundation and also master at the end how to design applications in the real world.
Understood. Thank you, Arun. Thank you so much. I have another question from the student's point of view. So the most popular ads that have been pushed is a lot of online courses. So we are looking at a completely offline, maybe during the COVID era, a hybrid system to begin with. Once maybe in the coming months we'll have offline classes. But how do you say, okay, offline is something? How do you differentiate that? If you say, what are the key differentiators? Why do you prefer an offline program?
One simple reason, as I was saying, an application is not designed by one designer. An application takes 2 or 3 different field of designers to come together to design an application. Here, on all the projects, we mix people who have different capabilities. There are designers who really love talking to the customers and getting insights from them. There are a lot of students who really love doing wireframes, and there are students who really are very good at visuals, graphic design. So all these three come together to work on a project, and that is what in real life you will be working in the industry. And working on projects in a group has an very important learning from your other peers. Second, whenever you're presenting your project in the entire class, you get to know what others have done. You learn parallelly with 3 or projects which you won't be working on, but you're learning parallelly with 3 or other group students who have done. Then the last is you will also learn about presentation skills, which is very important for a designer, because you don't going to keep designs in a screen and send it off to the developers to design it. You'll have to explain it in a way that everything you have understood. So these 3 points you would not get on an online course where it is one way, where you would learn only what is being told in the video. But here you will learn what even others have learned. The others ask questions, and working in groups is going to help you to learn much more faster and better in getting into a deeper knowledge of the subject.
Understood. Brilliant. Thank you, Arun. My next question comes to what kind of tools do our UI UX program have? Like when you look at, when I specifically say tools, what are the softwares that is part of this curriculum? I would.
So we largely work on 2 tools. Both are used the most in the industry. One is Figma. The other one is Adobe XD. Both are free for a single user license, so all the students can sign up and get into the tools free of cost. Also, I would want to emphasize on this. We do not have like a long duration teaching on the tools. For example, Adobe XD and Figma are learned part of your projects. We would give basics of Adobe XD in a weekend, which has got 8 hours of class. Then we would want you guys to go deeper learning yourself. And of course, all the faculties are available during the week to learn any nuances of the design. The reason why we have built this in a way that we don't get into teaching 60 hours of Adobe XD or a Figma is it's out there. There are so many videos. Even Adobe XD has a lot of courses free, which teaches you the details of XD. You would go and learn, and side by side, while working on your projects, you will master the skills of it. It's just like this, right? For a carpenter, you would not spend time of teaching how do you use your screwdriver and put the best nail in the wood, but you would be teaching, hey, what kind of wood would you pick up? What does it take to design a stool that would be best in the structure for a kid to sit? Or what kind of comfort levels or the structure you would design for an elderly person to sit? So the program is 80% covering what practicals are required. Tools, we have it, Adobe XD and Figma part of our program, but it's going to be just give you, hey, these are the ways you can learn the, you will have 8 hours of class of tools, but all the students will learn the tool throughout working of the projects.
Noted. Thank you, Arun. Okay. Could we give them a little highlight on how the placements work at Bangalore School of Design? What is the process? What we have? How do we give that finishing touch to the students?
That's a good question. I think I missed covering in the curriculum. At the end of the program, we do 2 things. One, we prepare all the students industry ready. Okay, what does the term industry ready mean? We will help them to build a portfolio from the projects which they have worked on, which is one of the most important steps to getting into a placement. That's the first thing. Second thing is we also conduct mock interviews for the students who are ready for having a career shift. The mock interview will help them prepare exactly what kind of questions, what kind of process, what are the expectations a company has, and what would you be, how would you be ready for tackling all these interviews? Then the last thing is what we do is an industry connect. So industry connect is somewhere where we know there are placements, and we would connect the students with the organization for open for placements. These are the three things which we do. In short, if I say that I mean, we make the students industry ready for appearing for the job placements.
Understood. Thank you, Arun. I think that's about it for today. And if you have any further questions for Arun or myself, you can always pop in there. And alternatively, you can always also reach us out on our personal numbers. I think our academic counselors will be able to help you on that. We'll be able to connect one-on-one also. We're happy to discuss your program and your what you're looking at learning at PhD. Uh, Beyond this, Arun, you want to cover anything else, or we'll call it?
No, I've just put in my number here. Happy to chat with anyone. Anybody wants to get into more details about the faculties, the program, or what do we do exactly? We can have a connect on this number. I am available on WhatsApp.
Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Thank you, guys. Thank you for joining for this informative session on UI and UX program. So we're looking forward to seeing you on campus and joining our program. And wish you all the best. And take care, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Hello, hello.